Hi, I'm Moira. I want to share with you how I became so engrossed and interested in theatre. I first went when I was 7 to the King's Theatre and saw Annie. And I will never forget that moment where I was just utterly engrossed in the stage. The beauty of the movement, the colours, the singing. I was so engaged with it. But I didn't understand it. And that's when I realised that they and I were different. Growing up, when I was 15, I saw a film you might have seen made in America called Children of a Lesser God. And there was a character in that film called Sarah Norman, who was a deaf character, played by a deaf actress, McAuslan. She used sign language, and she was the same as me. And that's when I realised that that's what I wanted. I knew then that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an actor. I'm a sign language user, British Sign Language. And you might hear me through this talk mention BSL, British Sign Language, and SSE. If you look at Google for a description of that, you'll find that SSE means Sign Supported English. And it basically means that following the English word order and grammar, people produce language but with some supported signs from British Sign Language. But it follows like, a spoken language. So it would be speaking and signing at the same time quite often. In education. I'm still unsure whether my experience of language and education made it a success for me. What I use, British Sign Language, is a language with its own structure, its own grammar, its own facial expressions, a three-dimensional, fully fluent language. And maybe an example between the two of those would be, if I was to say in SSE, a person stands, offers tea, people on the street. In BSL, I would say this. So first you set up the people, and you explain more detail, like how many people there were, which direction they were going in, what distance they were from you, how they were passing on the street, and what mood they were passing on the street. You get to set that up first, and then you become the person who is offering the tea. All that is shown in this movement. There may be other examples of facial expressions you can apply, like this, or this, or this. When I was at school and was taught in sign-supported English, I was always having to work to pick up what they were saying. But when I went to the deaf club and I went to the community, that's where I acquired my language as opposed to was taught language. To give you a metaphor, a visual metaphor that might help you understand what I mean by that. If you imagine two windows, filthy windows. To me, SSE was a little bit like polishing a bit and another bit and maybe clearing another bit of the window and peering through at that information. But BSL was like a crystal clear, cleaned window. BSL is what gave me my identity. It's what gave me my pride in myself and the beauty and the richness of the language and the language production that can give. And that's, to me, what opened me up as a person. I mentioned earlier Children of a Lesser God. To return to that for a moment, when I had that dream of becoming an actress, the dream was almost like Wizard of Oz. I'm putting myself into that role of Dorothy. I even have the shoes. I think of it from that perspective of realising my dream. With the yellow brick road, the spiral starting off and then taking its course along that path until the bricks are scattered out in front of me and the poles are all pointed in really obscure directions. And so not having that path laid out, but the door finally opened to me and the journey really started to take off when I finally came across Deaf Theatre Skills, a course that I connected with, which I learned so much about theatre and performance. It was incredible. And when I started taking part in that course, it really opened up to me. And for the next 3 years, I studied part-time there and then went on into the BA performance. I mean, to be honest with you, though, when I first had the idea of doing the BA performance, I really wasn't sure of myself. Going back to my school days, my education hadn't given me any certification to talk of, you know, blank sheet of paper. So, if you think about it as, you know, climbing the ladder, and the BA in my mind being at the top of that ladder, think of all the rungs that I had to climb to get to that point. So I was left really doubtful of myself as to whether I could do it. But my gut told me not to give up. So I applied. I got an audition and I was accepted. I was ecstatic. The BA performance, which was studied in BSL in English, was 10 of us, all deaf, as a cohort. And we studied a variety of topics: visual theatre, devising, improvisation, acting foundation, register and text, movement, acting for camera, script to screen, and all sorts of other subjects. And when I finished that course, it was fantastic. There's now a new cohort of 12 deaf people have moved on to that next course. But I was trying to explain to you about the course itself and 10 of us taking part in that. We were all deaf, but we all had different linguistic needs within that group, and they were all met. So our needs were all met. So I feel very proud looking towards the cohort of the next 12 deaf students. But when I considered myself on that graduation day, standing in my gown and getting my photograph taken, it was like waking up from that dream and realising that I had done it. I had made that leap. I had actually achieved all those hours and years to achieve that moment, that graduation. Do you remember when I came on stage at the start, I signed without any voiceover? I'd like to repeat that for you now, because you probably were wondering what I was saying. Imagine a school, a city, a country built on kindness, a place of welcome. I took that excerpt from a piece of performance called The Arrival, which was based on a graphic novel by Sean Tan. Performance which was produced by Solar Bear. It was a cast of 2 deaf and 2 hearing actors, and we produced the piece in different languages: spoken language, sign language, and music, which all integrated to become the language of the production. We took the show throughout the whole of Scotland. We toured to various schools and we met a lot of deaf pupils. Now, some of those deaf pupils reminded me of myself. This is the 21st century though, and they shouldn't be in that position. It's time for change. And so it needs to be people like you and I all working together to make things better and for deaf young people's experiences to move on. So I showed you that excerpt and I've now given you a voice to it. Why I did that at the beginning without a voice was so that you had an understanding of not understanding, which is what I had throughout a lot of my school years. Throughout the country, many deaf people would tell you this same phrase. What did they say? What did they say? What did they say? But as an adult, when I now look back to my experience, if I had had language used in my education fluently, maybe my skill set would have developed a lot sooner and maybe my journey would have been a bit different. So to think of my yellow brick road path having been scattered, if that hadn't been the case, if it had been laid out, if there had been options, clear options set out for my choices as a young adult, maybe I would have grown earlier with that confidence, and maybe I would have been able to walk down that path so that it became a phrase from the play, a place of welcome.